Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, July 25th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Mr. Jonah Booker in just a moment. What were our main takeaways from Big Ten Media Days? Mostly about Ohio State, of course, but I see that the Michigan defensive end take a shot at the Buckeyes. I never even heard of Derek Moore, but now I have. But really, what are our biggest takeaways from Media Days? What do we think about Ohio State's offensive line this year? We had a good item in the boarding house from a source talking about Ethan Onianwa's had a good summer. I was bullish on this offensive line before I even heard that. That makes me even more bullish. So I'm going to ask Jay Book about that. And maybe we'll get into what playoff format we would prefer. It's interesting hearing all the Big Ten coaches. They definitely had a meeting beforehand to make sure they were all on the same page. They all gave a shout out to Tony Petitti. They all said they want the 4 automatic qualifiers. And they are all on the same page, which I found interesting. All right, before we bring Jay Book in here, we'll let you guys know about Factor Meals and a great deal you guys can get. I'll just cut to the chase. You can get half off plus free shipping. That's about as good as it gets. And, summer's still in full swing. You don't want to be stuck inside prepping, cooking, cleaning up afterwards, which is always the worst part, cleaning up afterwards. Factor, that's where Factor comes in. High quality, ready in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. All right. I love their grilled chicken, sun-dried tomatoes. I love their smoothies. So many different meals. All right, here you guys go. As I said, get started at factormeals.com/bucknuts50off. Use code bucknuts50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code bucknuts50off at factormeals.com/bucknuts50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/bucknuts50off, 50% off and free shipping. Bam. That is almost as good as Jay Book's insights. Good to see you, my friend.
How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Let's start with your main takeaways from Media Days. Obviously, mostly about Ohio State, but I saw the Michigan defensive end, Derek Moore, take a shot at the Buckeyes saying, if you didn't beat us, then it doesn't count as a national championship. Like, I don't know if that's how it works these days, Derek.
Right.
But, hey, they've won 4 in a row. They're feeling good about it, but I want to remind everybody that 4-0 streak that's impressive. You beat Ohio State 4 straight years, hats off. Not as impressive as Ohio State's 7-game winning streak over Michigan earlier this century, and certainly not as impressive as Ohio State's 8-game winning streak over them earlier this century. They had a stretch of 16 years, J-Book, as you know. Ohio State went 15-1. So let Michigan chirp all they want. Order will be restored to the universe this year, in my opinion. But your main takeaways from Media Day, sir?
Well, when it comes to Michigan, my takeaway is Ohio State winning the national championship really, really irritates that program and their fan base. Mm-hmm. Like, they cannot get their minds around the fact that they beat the Buckeyes. However, it did not derail the national championship for Ohio State. The gold trophy is in Columbus, and that really gets up their skin, Dave. The fact that they just keep talking about, not a real natty, like, nobody says that about the NFL when the Eagles loses to the Cowboys in an upset. The Eagles go on and win the Super Bowl. You never hear people say, no, that Super Bowl didn't count.
Or March Madness. If Carolina loses to Duke, they could lose to Duke twice or 3 times. If Carolina goes on to win the national title, you think their fans care at all that they lost to? They care. We care that they lost to Michigan, but take the title every time. That's why we're 1, 2, 3 still basking.
Yeah. And so it just gets up their skin. Now, as far as the Big Ten Media Day, I think the overwhelming theme, as you mentioned, were the coaches talking about the scheduling. I think they hit hard towards the SEC, and I think that was agenda driven by Petitti because they want the SEC to get to 9 games instead of 8. So any chance that they got a opportunity to take a shot at the SEC scheduling, they did. Kurt Cinetti, he loves to really poke and prod and irritate the SEC because they're still salty that Indiana got in over Alabama or Ole Miss. And so anytime they get a chance to take digs at Indiana, they're going to do it. He's on the other end. Anytime he gets opportunity to dig at the SEC, he's going to have that opportunity. The one thing that also really stood out to me, Dave, being out there in Las Vegas, you heard a lot of people out there saying it's championship or bust for James Franklin. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if Jimmy can handle those type of expectations and pressure. When you start talking about
Jimmy.
championship or bust for James Franklin, when this guy continues to struggle to get over the hump when it matters in big games, that's a lot of pressure. You look at Jim Knowles' defense. We've witnessed it here. It took 3 years in the addition of a Caleb Downs, a top 5 NFL pick, for his defense to really click. When you look at what Penn State's doing on that side of the ball, they're replacing a significant amount of people, especially they're replacing 2 new starters at the safety position. The thing that really made Ohio State defense work, it was a unique situation to where Downs was so gifted, so good. He was like a coach on the field, number one, but he also kind of played that Ed Reed rover where he played in the middle of the field, and he was able to eliminate a lot of that. And the reason he was able to do that is because you have such a versatile player in Jordan Hancock who can play that nickel and also play on the back end there. So I don't think Penn State is going to have the personnel. And the reason why I say the timing is kind of messed up is because Jim would tell you it takes 3 to 4 years for his defense to really hit his stride. If Penn State's in a window to where they have to win a championship this year, I don't know if Jim Knowles' defense is going to be ready for that, considering he had much better personnel at Ohio State, and it took him 3 years to get it to where it was at a championship level caliber defense.
It's a great point because I've said, hey, Knowles accomplished what he was brought here to do. I have no ill will toward him. In fact, I liked him, getting to know him personally a little bit. It's not like we went out and drank beers together. I mean, he invited me, but I just didn't go. No, I'm kidding. But I got to know him a little bit, and I liked the man. But I've said, like, number one defense in the country in every meaningful stat, won the national championship. But you make a great point. It took 3 years to get there. And you're talking about, like, the entire defensive line was drafted. First round, second round, fourth round, fifth round. Jack Sawyer never should have lasted the fourth round. That's a topic for a different day. Caleb Downs, as you mentioned, the best player in college football, second best player in college football behind JJ. It took all of that and all of these seniors. Lathan, I mean, it was unbelievable how veteran this team was. Cody Simon turning into the best middle linebacker that we've seen just that one season. I'm not saying his career was better than like some of the best that one season is as good as I've seen from an Ohio State middle linebacker. So you're right, man. That's a lot to put on James Franklin and Jimmy. But we'll see what happens. Final time for the next couple years that Ohio State and Penn State are going to play. Penn State coming to the Horseshoe. It'll be fun.
I will say this. It was kind of cool being out there and seeing all the people that you see on the television, like the Heather Dinich and Rick Neuheisel. Ran into Josh Perry out there, so I got to speak with him for a bit. I saw Joe Klatt. He was hustling. I was Gary, make a comment about Big Noon just jokingly towards him, but he was hopping on the elevator. Got to have breakfast right next to Jeremiah and Downs and Sonny, so that was pretty cool. Looked over my shoulder. I was like, "Oh, what's up, fellas?" At breakfast. So it was a good time out there. The other thing is, don't sleep on Illinois, man. Brett Bielema is very bullish. Thinks this is a team that can really make a playoff type of run. So I think that he has a team right now that a lot of people aren't talking about. I think that some media members had Illinois pick like 5th, maybe 6th in the Big Ten rankings. And you're talking about a team that's coming off 10 wins. So I think they're probably slept on a little bit. Mike Locksley, interesting. Gene Smith is working with Maryland as a kind of a athletic consultant for the next 6 months. So I thought that was fascinating because I saw Gene Smith out there. I was like, wonder what Gene's doing out here. He's supposed to be retired. Come to find out, he's actually working with Maryland. So Mike Locksley, I don't know what his situation is, but I think he has to take some type of step, in that they're kind of just sitting there plateau, just treading water as a program. You would think that with the Under Armour money that they have, that they would take some type of jump. So I'm curious to see what Gene's role is going to be working with Maryland there. But the biggest thing is they are the Big Ten is very bullish about this is by far the best conference in all of football, in all of college football, and they're touting that 6-1 on the field record versus the SEC. So I don't know if they're going to be able to resolve these issues, Dave, because going into this Big Ten media, what you heard a lot about was the Big Ten and the SEC are kind of arm in arm about how the future of college football is going to be shaped. When you listen to the administrators and all the people talk, they clearly are on two separate ideas as far as philosophical and how this playoff should be formatted.
Yeah, they're not just on the same page. They're not in the same book, it doesn't seem like. And you nailed it, because it seemed like they were in lockstep, and now they completely disagreed. The Big Ten wants the SEC to play 9 conference games. The SEC is not going to do that. The Big Ten wants 4 automatic qualifiers. The SEC doesn't want that. But it's funny. The talking points were clear. You know, the Big Ten, all the coaches, every one of them said, we believe in the 4 automatic qualifiers. Gave a shout out to Tony Petitti. We're the best conference in college football. I mean, I like it. I like the bravado. A lot of that is just everybody get on the same page and say the same thing, but I still liked it.
Right. And I would say this, James Franklin, of course, taking a shot at Notre Dame. He couldn't help himself. So James is up there on the podium yesterday or day before, whenever they were up there talking about how Notre Dame needs to get into conference. I'm like, he just can't help himself. Saw Dan Lanning. He's a lot taller than what I thought he was going to be. So saw Dan Lanning coming in as I was heading to the parking garage there. What else I'm trying to think? I mean, Kenyatta Jackson in the defensive line. There's been a lot of talk on Ohio State side about how they think he's poised for a major breakout. So that's been one of the talking points from the Buckeye side was Kenyatta Jackson. And then Ryan Day mentioning a lot of the offensive linemen, Dave. I mean, we talked about the O-line. And so when you hear the head ball coach praising the offensive line, he even wanted to bring Austin Saraville, a couple of those other guys out there to Las Vegas, but they only allowed him to bring 3. So I think that right there probably tell you they're really bullish about this O-line heading into the season.
Great segue. That's exactly what we're going to get into. And yeah, for Coach Day to give Austin Saraville that shout out kind of makes it official in my book that he's going to be a captain.
Yeah.
I think those 3 young men, unless they give it to Carnell Tate, because you had 3 Iron Buckeyes. You had J.J. Smith, you had Sonny Styles, and you had Austin Saraville. All right. So 2 of those guys were at media days, and J.J. Smith and Sonny Styles. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Caleb wasn't too far behind. And then you got to think probably they're going to have Saraville as the other captain, I would think. Yeah. You think they'll make JJ a captain as a sophomore? I hope they do.
Ooh, I think so. I mean, what did they say? They said that he leads everybody in all the drills. He's one that is incredibly talented, but his work ethic is undeniable. Mm-hmm. And so when you start pairing someone who is extremely God-given talented with a tremendous work ethic, those are the people that you want to be able to go to battle with. So I see no reason why JJ shouldn't be a captain. I'm trying to think who else.
Brandon Ennis was brought up to me. I had a former player reach out because I was talking on the 97.1, the Fan last week, and I had a former player texting me during the show, said Austin first, because I was like, I know who the defensive captains will be 100%, Sonny and Caleb. I'm like, I'm not sure about offense. Maybe Austin Saraville, but he's only a 3rd-year sophomore. Maybe this guy. I had a player reach out, Austin for sure. And then he said his other guess would be Brandon Ennis. That surprised me a little bit. And Ennis is a fiery, I see it. I would think JJ would get the nod over Brandon, but we'll see. Or even Carnell.
Right. But that's also a testament to that wide receiver room that you're looking and say, hey, because they even mentioned Carnell being his leadership really stepping up. So you got 3 of your starters in the wide receiver room that you can say, hey, these guys are potentially captains. I think Carson Hinsman, the way he's moving this summer, going out there with Charles Bentley, a lot of people have been talking about him really taking that next step. He's one to keep an eye on as well. But that offensive line, I think they're going to be really, really good, Dave.
Okay, as promised, let's get into that. I know, man, I'm bullish on this offensive line. I was bullish before we had a really good source that we quoted in the boarding house today, say Ethan Onianwa. is a player on the rise. I was already excited about Onianwa, because we heard like guys like Tom Luganbill say, wait, he transferred to Ohio State? I thought he was just going to turn pro. He would have been a second-round pick. I'm like, damn, that's pretty good. So I love hearing that Onianwa's had a good summer. I'm bullish about this offensive line across the board, and I like the depth, man.
Yeah, that was big for them to have Ethan take that next step, transitioning from Rice to Ohio State. That's definitely a major level up. So took him a little bit of time to transition from that lower level to where they're at now. Always had the talent, but whenever you're making that type of jump against this type of competition, it's going to take you a little bit to adjust. The other adjustment that has been going really well is strength and conditioning with Coach Mick and that crew. Stripping off some of that bad weight. I think he played at like 365 or something like that at Rice. So getting him down to a more comfortable weight, getting him stronger to be able to anchor that left side of the offensive line was huge for them. So I think it was one of those situations to where they found a guy that they believe will be an NFL caliber offensive lineman. They just needed to tweak some things with him. But sounds like he's really bought into the program this summer. He is, kind of one of the offensive linemen that's starting to really stand out. And that's huge, especially when you're breaking in a brand new quarterback, having a left tackle who's going to be able to maul people, because that's the one thing about him. He is an absolute physical specimen. He will junkyard dog you in the offensive line in the run game. When it comes to the pass pro, those are some of the things. Getting that technique cleaned up, working with Bowen there, getting that weight down to where he's playing healthy, playing a little bit lighter and he's healthy. And then you look at the interior. The interior, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. You have the returning interior on the national championship team. And then with Austin Cereville rise, Dave, that's why I said he's kind of that wild card that's probably going to start at the right tackle that I don't know, going into the spring, you would have said, hey, this guy is going to take that next level jump. And luckily for Ohio State, he has. So with him taking that jump, it now gives you a lot of depth on that offensive line, especially at the tackle position. Now you're talking about 5, maybe 6 guys at the tackle position when you start talking about Carter Lowe as a true freshman. And then you talk about one of the Armstrong twins.
Ian Moore.
Yeah, and they love him. They think he's probably going to be your second tackle once they open up camp. But if anything happens to Ethan, I think Moore's going to be a guy that they feel comfortable with sliding in there. So I think that this offensive line has the potential to be really good. When you have a monster of a running back with C.J. Donaldson probably playing at 225, 230. At like 6'1", 6'2", and then you got James Peoples, who look like he's chiseled out of stone, the way he is kind of taking that next step and getting his body right. They're going to be a tough out, Dave. They are going to be a tough out. That's why I can't wait for this Texas game, man, because here's the thing. Texas is going to be the best front seven that they face all year. I know Michigan likes to tout their guys, but Texas, they have first-round talent on that front seven with their guys. If this offensive line handles their business against Texas, you're talking about another potential special season.
I know you got to get out of here. You have a work meeting. I had to start the show late. I have some stuff going on, so I appreciate your insights as always, sir. I'll get you out of here so you're not late to your work meeting.
All right, man. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, my friend.
Yep.
He's Mr. Jonah Booker. Appreciate his insights as always. I'm going to keep it going just for a little bit longer here. So I think this is a good question right here. Mike Schaefer, which player is the most important to stay healthy this year? Well, how about we go with a tie between Caden McDonald and Edric Houston? I don't think we can sit here and talk about, hey, we like the starting DTs, but we're really, really, really concerned about the backups and not say the starting DTs are the most important. Now, I might say Julian Sand because quarterback's the most important, but I do believe Lincoln Keenholz could get the job done if need be. Ethan Onianwa would be in the others receiving votes because I do, as Jay Book mentioned, I do like some of these backup tackles. I don't know if they'd be ready to step in right away. Carter Lowe, I think, is going to be a really good player here. As a true freshman, I don't know if we want him starting. Ian Moore, redshirt freshman, maybe. maybe he could be fine in there. And you always could kick Phillip Daniels over to left tackle, if Saraveld the right tackle, or you could even kick Saraveld over to left tackle. He can play anything other than maybe center. He'll could probably play center too. So they have options there. You'd probably move in if Daniels is your backup right tackle and Onianwa goes down, you probably put Daniels at left tackle if you believe he's better than Ian Moore. So they have some depth there, or I would say Onianwa. So yeah, I'm going to go with a tie between Caden McDonald and Edric Houston because, dude, they can't look. And I mean, okay, are we going to take JJ and Caleb Downs off the table? Because I feel like even though I love the depth at wide receiver, but are we really going to say that the best player in college football is not the most valuable on this team, that is not the most important to stay healthy? So I'm going to, for the sake of the argument, I'm going to take JJ and Caleb off the table since they're, in my opinion, the two best players in the sport of college football. Yeah, I'll go with the D tackles. I think those guys need to stay healthy, and then that'll mitigate the chances of D tackle being a huge concern. So I think one of those backups, if not two, are going to step up and be solid players this year, maybe better than that. A Will Smith Jr., maybe an Eric Mensa, true freshman Jarquez Carter, I think is going to play. But you got to keep those D tackles healthy, man. Got to keep those D tackles healthy. And we don't need Caden playing, McDonald playing like 50 snaps a game or more. Big guy might get worn out a little bit. We need to keep him a little fresh. I'll go with the D tackles. All right, I want to get into this a little bit. Have you guys been following this NIL drama that keeps changing? So Trump has now signed an executive order to get the guardrails for NIL, which would then prevent everything that I've been saying about going to court. Now the next thing that needs to happen is the SCORE Act has to get through Congress. It's passed its first leg. The House committee approved it to be voted on. The way I understand it, they're going to need it'd be a little bit of an upset if the SCORE Act gets through, because I think you're going to need it's really become somewhat of a bipartisan issue, or a partisan issue, I should say. We have a lot of Republicans who want one thing and a lot of Democrats who want another. I thought maybe college football wouldn't be partisan, but I guess everything in the world is right now. I'm saying this as someone who's I'm a staunch independent. I'll just throw that out there. I'm smack dab in the middle. I lean right on some stuff, lean left on some other stuff. Fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Best way to describe me. But I think there's BS on both sides. But I thought this was one time we could come together and everybody, all right, let's get this done. So we'll see. The SCORE Act, I'm a little skeptical it's going to get through the final vote, because you're going to need, I think, 7 Democrats to vote for it to get through, because you're going to need 60%. It's not just a straight majority. You have to have 60%, not 50, not 51. So probably the odds are it won't pass, but at least there's a chance. At least there's a decent chance it's going to pass. So I hope, as I've told you guys, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there are going to be these guardrails. I hope kids, when they get NIL deals rejected that are not reasonable deal, because we all know NIL is really PTP, play to play. What Jeremiah Smith is doing, for example, with Adidas, that's NIL. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Like when Jack Sawyer and Will Howard would do those hilarious commercials here in Columbus for Canes. I think some people in Dayton said they showed it there too. There are these hilarious commercials after the national championship run with Jack Sawyer and Will Howard. Jack would order everything off the menu, and Will would be like, "You ordered all that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just needed a little snack. I already ate." Oh gosh, orders everything off the menu. That's just a little snack for Jack. That's NIL. All right. So do we want to have PTP? I never wanted it, but I just thought there's no way in the United States this is going to hold up in a court of law. You cannot say we're a capitalist society, except these kids can't be capitalists. These guys can't be. Everybody else can, not these guys. No, that was never going to hold up unless you have Congress. If they get the SCORE Act passed, it will hold up. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I've been following this drama. It's fascinating to me. I've always had I've always kind of liked the legal side of stuff. Like I like watching court trials and stuff like that. Like I followed the Hockey Canada stuff really close, and they came to their decision yesterday on that. I'm sure you guys saw that. So I've always kind of like following the legalese of sports, and not just sports, obviously. So maybe in a different life, I would have been a lawyer, not a podcaster and a sports writer. I think my wife would like that. All right. I appreciate you guys. Really appreciate J Book. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Go Bucks. Still basking.